It seems almost impossible to go anywhere now and see a garden that doesn't have a metal raised bed in it. But that doesn't mean that they are the best garden out there, and they may not be right for you. So in today's video, I'm gonna give you 6 reasons why metal raised beds suck and why they might not be the right choice for you. So I'm not trying to talk you out of a metal raised bed, because they do have a ton of benefits too, which is not happening in this video. But if you do want to know about the benefits of a metal raised bed, let me know in the comments below mentioning you want to see benefits. But this is all about the negative aspects of a metal raised bed. If you're new here, my name is Bree from Urban Gardening Canada, and I garden in Ottawa Zone 5. I own metal raised beds, wood raised beds. I garden in the ground. I grow in pots. And so I have been growing a garden in many different ways. I even own metal raised beds from 4 different companies. And I will be putting up an article on my website shortly on the comparison, so that way you know which one's right for you, because I've decided I am going to test all the different metal raised bed companies, from cheap ones on Amazon to expensive designer looking ones, so that way you can figure out which one's best for you if you do decide that you want to invest in a metal raised bed. So that article tied in with today's video should give you a really good understanding of what to expect when you are going to get a metal raised bed. And again, I won't be talking about the benefits in this one, so you'll have to stick around or let me know if that's something that interests you. So the first reason is one that you are likely the most aware of, and that is that they can be very expensive to buy. So you can go and make yourself a wood raised bed, and wood prices obviously are always fluctuating, but it isn't that expensive to build one. However, these metal raised beds can get very expensive depending on where you buy them from, especially the ones that come in different colors. These gardens can range anywhere from $300 to $1,000 per garden. So if you're like me and you have a bunch of raised garden beds, it can add up really quickly. These gardens can work well if you have a small space or you only plan on investing in one, but depending on if you want one that comes in a special color, a special shape, or a special height. So the one behind me is 32 inches tall. The range in pricing is going to matter. And if you have a lot of gardens that you want to be building, then it is going to get very expensive and they are going to add up. So this is definitely something that you have to consider if you're going to choose to invest in a metal raised bed. Next up is that it is metal and it can be really sharp to work with. So when I was building this specific garden here, I cut myself on multiple occasions because the corners are sharp, the edges of the panels are sharp, and each of the screw holes is sharp because of it all being made out of metal. So it's really important that if you are going to get one, that you're able to wear pants, a long sleeve, and gloves, because you really don't want to cut yourself on these things. It doesn't really feel very nice. So it's definitely something that you do want to consider with these gardens. Now, depending on the height of your garden and how you enjoy gardening, if you do like to sit on the edges of them while you are weeding or planting, raised beds really aren't meant for that. They have a really thin edge on them. So if you do try and sit on them, it's really, really uncomfortable and not easy to do at all. So if that is a way that you tend to want to garden, then you are going to not be able to do that unless you have a garden seat or you build something that goes beside it. Otherwise, that goes out the window with metal raised beds. So depending on where you live, these can get hot in the summer and cold in the winter. Now, it gets really hot here in Ottawa in the summertime, and I have put my hand on the outside of these gardens, and they don't get so hot that they burn your skin when you touch them, but they're definitely warm. And in the winter time, they get really, really cold. So if you want to be growing vegetables over the winter time, a metal raised bed is not the place for it, because that soil is going to stay so much colder than if it was in the ground. And in the summertime, it is really good in the spring to heat up your soil from the frozen winter to the warmth of summer. So there is a benefit with that. However, it does get warm in the summertime, which means that your soil is going to stay hotter, and that means that your water is going to evaporate more. So it can potentially lead you to having to water your garden more often. So before we get into the next reason why metal raised beds might suck for you, I do want to talk about my course that I have. I have an online self-paced course that teaches you how to be a better gardener. It does the entire garden cycle from planting seeds all the way to harvesting seeds again full garden cycle, and it's all about being able to do it during this wild weather. So many of us have been experiencing super excessive rains, wildfires, smoke in the air, hail. I drove through a hailstorm just a couple weeks ago, and I was very nervous for my car. And our plants need to have support and structure in order to get through all these heavy rains and the winds and hail. And so that is what this course is about. It's just getting you ready to make sure that your garden can stand up to any weather that gets thrown at you. So again, it's self-paced, which means that you can take your time with it. It's quite a long one. It's got videos, lectures, workbooks that you can download straight into your garden. There's so much for it. So if you are interested in getting this, I will leave a link in the description below for you to check it out, and you can sign up for a free preview so that way you can see if it's right for you. And now let's get back into the next reason why metal raised beds may suck. So another thing with metal raised beds is because you can't get them in store, or they're harder to find in store, you don't really know the quality of them until you order them and you get them. So this is my garden that I got off of Amazon. This is the cheapest garden I've ever invested in, and I really had no idea what the quality of it was going to be like. This garden actually came out pretty good. It's only 2 feet by 4 feet though, so I don't really know how well it would hold up if I had gotten a really large garden, because I chose to go smaller. And it didn't come with the rubber on this, so the edges were actually quite sharp, and I used leftover rubber on it. And I didn't know that it didn't come with the rubber on it until I got it home. So really, you're taking a gamble when you are buying this stuff versus if you choose to make it out of wood. You can see the wood quality when you choose to go out and buy it. So you are putting a little bit of trust into these companies when you are ordering it and getting it shipped to you. So the final thing with metal raised beds is that you can't customize them. You have to choose a shape or a size that comes in the store. So if they only offer 3 different heights, then those are the only heights that you get to choose. You can't build something that is smaller or higher for you. You can't change the shape of it. So if you have an awkward backyard where you can only have a triangle shaped garden, they don't sell them in triangle shape, which means that you can't use it that way. If you want it to be a little bit larger, then for us, we were able to customize this specific garden here, but we had to go to the hardware store and buy extra hardware in order to customize it. And if you're unfamiliar with a hardware store or the type of hardware available that you can use to customize these things, then it makes it a ton more difficult for you to be able to do that, which means that you really are choosing an out-of-the-box option and shape and nothing else. So if you wanted to do something specific or unique or needed to do it because of a yard shape, then you can't really get that with these metal raised beds. So you do have to understand that or be prepared for that. And one final note, because these gardens are metal and they're quite thin, they can actually come delivered to you scratched up or damaged or even warped. And some companies may not give you a new garden, especially if it comes warped. They're going to tell you that you just have to bend the metal back into shape. So you really have to be comfortable working with metal and knowing that you might spend up to $500 on a garden where the metal comes in warped and you're expected to push the warping back into its regular shape. And for me personally, the idea of spending $500 and then having to put on gloves and try and turn something back into the shape it originally should have been coming in is something that to me kind of leaves a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. So you do have to be prepared that because they're metal, they do change shapes or they are flexible, and that could cause some issues. You might have seen it in my sprout box review, because I have my metal raised bed is caving in because of it being flexible metal. And so I haven't gotten around to emptying it out yet because it's 2 yards of soil and that is so much work to have to do. But with my wood raised bed that's sitting right beside it, it hasn't rotted, it hasn't fallen apart. I can sit on the edge of it, it isn't caving in. And so there's a really interesting comparison that exists between the two of them, where now I'm going to have to empty out this metal bed and figure out the tension rod issue, bend it back into shape, and I have to be prepared and willing to do that. So you just have to balance these negatives with the benefits of a raised bed, and if it's right for you, to make that decision. So again, if you do want to know about the benefits of a metal raised bed, leave it in the comments below. But otherwise, that is everything from me today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in this video here. Bye.